I did not have Dwayne The Rock Johnson doing an anti-imperialist blockbuster on my 2022 bingo card. But here we are. Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve, and today's video is a review of the latest DCEU film, Black Adam. It is opening weekend, and I know that not everyone immediately runs to the cinema to see things when they are released, so I will do a brief spoiler-free section first, and then we have to get into spoilers. The sections are time-stamped, so proceed however you would like when it comes to how much you would like to watch. To start things off, I did not have strong expectations one way or another when going into seeing Black Adam for the first time. I didn't presume it was going to be incredible. I didn't presume it was going to be trash. I like most of the DCEU films, so I simply wanted to see what was next up in that universe. I try not to get overly caught up in my own expectations for films when seeing them for the first time. Now, admittedly, sometimes that proves to be difficult, or downright impossible. I have not and will not do a video about Halloween Ends. I'm going to spare myself the headache of that discourse, thank you very much.
I saw that going differently in my mind.
Therefore, I was shocked when Black Adam started playing, and we must have only gotten anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes in, and I was already sold. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. The vast majority of my feedback about Black Adam is positive, but if you follow me on Letterboxd, then you already know that I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I try not to give out too many 5-star ratings of new releases because I worry that I'm just going to get too swept up in the fun newness of watching something for the first time. I would rather the novelty wear off and then I can bump it up to a 5 later on if I find myself doing a lot of rewatches of whatever that film is and find that it has become embedded in my mind.
It's nothing short of brilliant.
One of the main reasons for my deduction, point-wise, was that some of the visual effects could have used a bit more refining, and one example of this is you see Black Adam before he gets his powers, and when you do, it's The Rock's head put on a body that is smaller than his own, and it looks odd.
Oh my God! What is that?
But back to the positives, though. Dwayne The Rock Johnson was unexpectedly compelling in this role. I think he's known in more recent years for a lot of roles or projects that don't interest me quite as much. A lot of populist action projects that don't give him as much to do beyond the action itself. I don't think that he's a bad actor. I saw Be Cool, and that Bring It On monologue, that is cinema.
What is this, hush money? We don't need you. Why are you so mean? I'm just trying to be strong for my squad.
I'm nobody's plus one. I'm VIP, bitches.
Bitches, it's just me. One bitch.
This movie has Samoan, Persian, and Arabic talent in the main ensemble. You wouldn't really know that, though, from the marketing, since all I keep seeing is The Rock and the cops. I mean, the JSA.
That's gross.
There's the solo poster, but if you look at the ensemble poster, you have to squint and play a game of Where's Wally to find the other heroes of this story, since they've been buried in the lower left corner.
Can you shed some light on the current situation?
The pacing is pretty breakneck for most of the film. It's a bit like the movie Speed. The foot goes on the gas and you cannot slow down at any point because the stakes are life and death. But that is exactly why I don't mind the pacing. I can speculate that there are those who will watch it and complain about that aspect. However, what most captured my attention in the best way possible was the socio-political commentary of this film. Without getting too specific just yet, it is very much an extremely anti-imperialist film, which is not something I was expecting to see. A lot of big studio blockbusters in the superhero genre or the broader action genre are frequently riddled with propaganda. Black Adam is Arab, and the film does not shy away from directly confronting the historical and ongoing violence against not only Arabic people, but the broader Middle East, as well as the global South in its entirety. I thought Avatar 2 was going to be the only anti-imperialist blockbuster of 2022, since James Cameron is absolutely about that life. But Dwayne The Rock Johnson really surprised and impressed me in the best way. I cannot recommend this film enough. A lot of movies, especially in the action or blockbuster or superhero genre, are vehicles for imperialist propaganda that glamorizes cops and feds and the terror that they unleash on the world at large. It is astonishing to see an anti-imperialist blockbuster because of all the financial incentives of upholding the status quo when it comes time to produce movies in show business.
Boo, tomato, 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 I'm throwing tomatoes.
Let's talk about spoilers now, since I'm assuming a fair few of you who are watching this have already seen the film and as such are fine with me getting into more of the details. I was impressed by the film right from the beginning. We open with this flashback sequence which offers insight into the origins of Black Adam. 2 points to make about this. Visually and thematically, I love this introduction. Seeing Black Adam's son be the one to call for revolution, it perfectly embodies a recurring talking point that can be found among the great revolutionaries of history. One example of this being a quote from Huey Newton, the founder of the Black Panthers, who stated that the revolution has always been in the hands of the young. The young always inherit the revolution. And we see this motif all throughout the film. This is a concept that isn't isolated to the past, but runs parallel in the modern timeline of the story, where Amon is constantly rebelling and fighting back against the imperialist aggression of the foreign military occupation of his country. Visually, some of the action in the past, especially the part where a slave is killed and thrown off a cliff, bore a lot of resemblance to Zack Snyder's 300. Obviously, coming from me, that's a compliment since I admire a lot of Zack Snyder's filmography and his visual style. You can see a fair bit of what the film overall has been inspired by or resembles besides just that one reference. They directly reference Dirty Harry by showing the film on television, and not long after, they have their own rendition of a shootout involving Black Adam himself. I don't love that reference, but that's more to do with me specifically not being a Clint Eastwood fan, as opposed to the quality of the execution of that sequence and it being an homage. But perhaps the most wholesome and heartwarming reference that I enjoyed was the way Black Adam and Amon's relationship definitely had a similar energy to that of the Terminator and John Connor in Terminator 2. You have the enthusiastic, rambunctious young boy teaching the brooding man out of time about the modern world and giving him a slogan. It was adorable. I was amazed by how unapologetically anti-imperialist Black Adam was as a film. The fact that the first thing we see in this modern time period is a young Arab boy standing up to a violent armed cop that is part of the military regime occupying his country while they are going through a checkpoint. Truly, the only way the movie could have been more on the nose about what they were doing would have been if that character had been throwing rocks at a tank while singing the anti-fascist anthem Bella Ciao.
So now if you'll excuse me, they're playing my jam.
I was speaking to a friend of mine about this movie who is not Arab, but they are Persian, about how powerful the messaging of Black Adam is and how inspiring it can be for Middle Eastern viewers who have had to bear the weight of Western imperialism to watch these characters and the story play out in the way that it does. Amon calls this soldier something like a neo-imperial colonizer there to steal resources. And I don't know if I've ever heard the word neo-imperialism name dropped in a big superhero blockbuster. It was so honest and unfiltered in a way I'm not used to seeing in big IP movies where you usually have to speak in symbolism and allegory to get that type of messaging across. There are just certain words that you don't see make the cut. But there is a broader appeal of Black Adam's story that reaches beyond just the Middle East, because Western imperialism has terrorized countries all over the global south for the sake of pillaging natural resources and for the sake of trying to maintain Western hegemony. I could very easily see Africans or Latin Americans relating to the story of Kahndaq and its people when those people in real life have had to experience any number of invasions and military occupations and so on and so forth because the West wanted to steal their oil, their lithium, copper, wheat, land. The list goes on and on. Kahndaq is a fictional country, but from what I could see, it's supposed to be Arabic, since I believe Black Adam's powers are supposed to be bestowed on him from Egyptian gods. Still, people in any country that has had to survive a US-backed or funded coup, or the aftermath of that, can have this story reach their heart, much like the people of Iran who lived through the West launching Operation Ajax against Mohammad Mossadegh, or the people of Chile when the US backed a coup against Salvador Allende, or the people of Burkina Faso when the West orchestrated the assassination of Thomas Sankara. Really, there are just far too many names and countries to fit all of them into this review. But all of this to say that the revolutionary spirit of Black Adam as a movie is so powerful, and I cannot emphasize enough how much I enjoyed watching it. Another part of what makes Black Adam so revolutionary in its storytelling is how decentralized the heroism is. Superhero stories, regardless of how many of them I personally might enjoy watching, can very easily fall into pro-fascist ideology. Putting one person on a pedestal as some sort of ideal standard that we are all supposed to follow can be dangerous if you don't have dedication to certain principles and values above one singular idol. The movie is called Black Adam, but it's not only about him. It's about Adriana fighting for Kahndaq and fighting for Amon when he is kidnapped. Amon is also incredibly energized to fight against the military occupation of Kahndaq, and he leads the revolution of the people of Kahndaq to fight back against Sabak's zombies. And I'm sorry if I'm messing up some of these word pronunciations, but the vast majority of these characters and this location are words that I have never heard before I watched this movie for the first time yesterday, at the time of me filming this video. Revolution is never just one leader. Revolution comes from the people at large who rise up and fight back against oppression. And by the way, I believe I saw somewhere online that the original version of Black Adam was rated R and they had to cut down the deaths or the death scenes. And now all I can say is release the R-rated Black Adam because I want to see it. All of my favorite characters from this film were the characters from Kahndaq. Even Ishmael, who is a villain, he was a great villain, and I enjoyed seeing him make problems, all the while knowing that eventually the heroes would rise up against him. The only reason I would never consider putting a Black Adam poster on my wall, for example, is because the marketing of this film is incredibly exclusionary to those characters. I am not going to put a Black Adam poster on my wall where it's just Black Adam surrounded by a bunch of cops. If there was a Black Adam poster that had Black Adam, his wife and son, Adriana, Amon, Kareem, and Ishmael, either as himself or as Sabak, I'm not picky in that regard, that is a poster worthy of rotation on my wall space. Having said that, though, I'm not completely opposed to the JSA being in the movie because the story very blatantly shows them for what they are. Cops. They are not heroes by any means. They outright say that they're there to restore global order. Whose order? Order for whom?
That's suspicious.
When Adriana dragged them and said that they never once showed up to fight against the military occupation of foreign invaders of their land that has lasted for decades, but now they want to show up and stop a revolutionary figure of Kahndaq, that gave me so much serotonin. And the movie was full of gems like that. Black Adam telling the JSA that they would let those Imperial soldiers free, knowing that they will harm the people of Kahndaq. Or when Black Adam tells the JSA something like, "Not your son, not your country, not your decision." I was audibly reacting and cheering so much all throughout the movie when they would say things like that. It's very weird to me when I see snide comments here or there online that are demeaning the exchange between Black Adam and Hawkman, where Hawkman is saying, "Heroes don't kill people," and Black Adam says, "I do." The people who don't like this seem to be very rooted in the idea that the conversation they are having is tapping into the discourse around superheroes in media, superhero films, and the debate around whether or not characters like Superman or Batman kill. That is not at all what I got out of the exchange that these two characters had. The fight that they are having ideologically in that moment ties directly back into the demonization of oppressed indigenous populations all over the world whenever they use violence to fight back against the oppressors, the invaders, the colonizers who come into their home and instigate the violence in the first place.
I hate to break it to you, but I'm gonna.
Indigenous populations all across North and South America, the indigenous populations in Africa, the indigenous Pacific Islanders, including those in countries like Aotearoa, the indigenous populations of the Middle East, all of these people have historically been and continue to be painted out to be inherently violent or primitive, completely leaving out the fact that their anger is righteous. And that is what Black Adam's story is in many ways rooted in: righteous anger. Oftentimes in revenge stories that Hollywood produces, the pursuit of revenge or the concept of revenge can be treated as something negative or a cautionary tale. But Black Adam puts the righteous anger of the oppressed in the spotlight and reveres it. And not only that, the movie expands the scope of villainy beyond just one singular character. It's anti-colonialism, it's anti-imperialism, but it's also anti-monarchy. The film feels so timely given all of the protests of brave people across different British Isles against the monarchy, for which they've been arrested for saying things like, "Not my king."
I don't like the mother, I don't like the father, I don't like any of them. Nope, none of them. Fire everybody.
Ishmael wants to rule simply because he is a descendant of the same monarch Black Adam killed to avenge his family. The monarchy believes they are owed the right to rule simply for being born, and not out of the goodness of their principles, which are driving their need to help people. I don't remember the exact lines, since I've only seen this film once at the cinema, so I don't have a copy of it on my computer to take more notes and show clips of the specific parts that I'm talking about, but I remember there was a part where someone asked Black Adam a question about him potentially being the new ruler of Kahndaq, and without taking time to think about what his response would be, I just blurted out, "No, the people can rule themselves." So seeing him sit on the throne and then destroy it, more serotonin.
With your gift and your talent and your vision, are you kidding?
There is a lot more I could say, but to try to condense what little else I haven't addressed so far, I really liked Pierce Brosnan, since even though he was on the team of cops, he sacrificed himself for the good of the people of Kahndaq. It's giving Michelle Rodriguez in Avatar when she switches sides and gets the blue paint on. Love that.
And the government tells me that I am very dangerous.
I hope the story stays in Kahndaq moving forward. I would be perfectly content to never see the JSA again, because they're Western cops and the people of Kahndaq don't need them. Ugh. I don't remember who said it, but when someone in the movie said, "The world needs the JSA," I just immediately responded, "No, it doesn't. Take it away before I gag." Another line that I loved with its total lack of subtlety was, "The world doesn't need a white knight. It needs something darker." Ooh, tell us how you really feel, Dwayne.
I know how difficult it must be for you to overcome all those years of upper middle class suburban oppression. Must be tough.
I cannot stress enough, I did not expect the movie to emotionally hit as hard as it did, but that scene where Black Adam stops a bullet to save Amont, it just really got to me. I know this review is all over the place, but that's just how I feel about the movie. After a first watch, I do plan on seeing it again, and I suppose people will also want me to address the mid-credits cameo. Henry! It was cute! I cheered when Henry showed up, but also, I'm not that surprised. I have said for a while now that Dwayne has been in Henry's corner. They're all on the same team. Henry is repped by Danny Garcia, the same as Dwayne. They're all in good with one another, and it feels like even though some might think it's strange for it to have taken, 15 years for Dwayne to finally play Black Adam after being cast as him, but he has managed to become one of the biggest movie stars in all of Hollywood between then and now. He has gained so much capital, both in a literal and figurative sense, and it's exciting to see him use that to get results. All of this, not only the movie itself, but Henry's cameo, has been a game of chess. Not in the sense of it being a trivial board game, but in the sense that there have always been a lot of moving pieces that needed to be kept in mind while trying to make things happen. So now all that's left for us to do is just wait and see what's next for Henry, whether he will get a new solo film announced or a film that specifically sees him and Dwayne in it together. I'm not too picky, I just want the story and visuals to be great. That is a very vague description of what I would like to see, but it is an honest one. And Dwayne is a real one for getting Henry in there just a month or so before the release of the film. Let me know what you thought of Black Adam. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next review, which will be a quick post about Ticket to Paradise, which I also loved. The rom-com is back, and it's not going anywhere. See you in the next one. Bye.